Well, labor unions have joined a chorus of voices criticizing the increase in electricity tariffs for some consumers. The president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Ajaero, is joining us now. Good to see you and thanks for your time. Well, in this case, you'll be putting on two caps. First, as an energy expert and a player who's been there for decades, and the NLC president. What truly is going on?
Well, you can't really understand the situation now because this is a situation that was foretold. In 2012, I told Nigerians that they would speak last with the level of privatization. And I think they're about to speak, but we are not yet there. But the most pertinent question, the way the Minister of Power is arguing about cost-reflective tariff. You ask him, what have you done to deserve cost-reflective tariff? What happened to service-reflective tariff? Now, which cost are you charging? Is it the cost of the salary or merited salary of the chief executives in the industry that you are demanding for, or their luxurious appetite? What cost are we talking about? The Gencos are telling you that they are not paying them. And you are talking of cost-reflective tariff. In a place where you don't have energy availability. Now you can't talk of affordability where there is not availability and accessibility. And he's talking of cost-reflective tariff and he's mounting it. From 2012 to date, there have been up to 7 or 8 tariff increases. And that was what I told Nigerians, that these guys will not add 1 watt. They will only be adjusting tariff. Ask them how many transformers they have replaced to deserve what they are getting. Ask this present government what is their energy policy. Because the minister is talking of cost. If we understand their energy policy, the Jonathan government led us into privatization. Now, where are we now? Are we still pursuing that privatization agenda? You know, where has it led us to? From the 4,000 megawatts they privatized 10 years after.
It's still there.
What has happened between that time and now?
Right.
And on that 4,000, you are increasing. NEPA used to have 1 MD, 4 EDs. Now you have about 18 MDs. 18 times 4 EDs, all over. The same cost on customers on daily basis. No meter. How can you buy a product that is not metered? Can you buy rice without a cup? Can you buy fuel where there is no meter? Now he's talking of band A, band B, and all this stuff. In countries of the world, they have gone green. What has happened to alternative sources of energy? That you are compelling everybody to bear the cost of gas. Cost-reflective tariff is the cost of gas because almost 70% of the production is based on gas. So what happened to solar? What happened to hydro? What happened to Mambila that Babangida did feasibility studies from that time to now? Mambila could give you more than 3,500 megawatts. Hydro, water. What are they doing about it? Now he's talking of cost. After 1 month again, they will increase again.
And you said there's something called service tariff, service reflective tariff.
Yeah.
But quickly, just a minute, because before Larry left, we took it to the aspect of investors. And listening to you now, bringing it all the way from NEPA till this moment, and looking at the entire sector of the 3 subsectors, Genco, transmission and distribution, where have we been investing, talking about government and even the discos?
Well, I have not seen any investment since they took over. What happened was that there was an arrangement to give the sector to some individuals through proxies. Those individuals took money from Nigerian banks and say that they have taken over the power sector. 3 planks. There must be technical competence, managerial ability, and FDI, foreign direct investment. No one kobo came into Nigerian economy, and I'm saying it here tomorrow, by virtue of the privatization of electricity in the country. Now, sooner than the takeover, we started experiencing both liquidity problem and crisis in those companies. 80% of the so-called privatized companies have been taken over by the banks. Abuja here, Bini, Ibadan, almost all. Now, this shows you that that's where and the banks are managing the power sector. They don't have the competence. The banks that took over the power sector are the people running it.
So what you're saying is Nigeria's electricity problem is a wicked problem.
But that defies, you can't even, you don't even know how to solve it.
Defies all logic.
Yes, it is being solved on the basis of cost, because the bankers are the best people running it now, not based on any technical sound knowledge.
Now let's come back to the Minister of Power's press briefing today, where he made quite a number of points. He says, look, we have to gradually ease off from, subsidy. It has to be gradual. We cannot drop subsidy in electricity all at once. Do you support that to start with? And he says, look, 2.9 trillion earmarked for 2024 subsidy on electricity, that it does not make sense to use about 10% of the national budget to address subsidy issues.
Yeah, these points are very shameful. So to say, that he's talking of privatizing electricity, and then government taking over in a deregulated sector. That's how today, the minister doesn't have the powers to regulate cost or anything in the power sector, because they have handed it over to the private sector. So what is he doing there? 2, they don't have right to subsidize a private man's business. Tell him I said so. If Ajaero bought a disco and then you are subsidizing me higher than the tune at which I bought the disco, what do you think he's doing? Tell him it's a prodigal economy. The entire power sector was sold at about 400 billion. And he's telling you that this year alone, that they will subsidize by 2.something trillion. Tell him, what is he doing there? Another person's business, private business. So all this is saying to some of us who knew that they privatized over 10 years ago, and they told us that government has no business in business.
Right.
So what is he doing now? So I don't really act. That's why I said, let them come up to tell us whether they have taken over the power sector and they are now micromanaging it, or is it still in the hands of the private sector and they are subsidizing other people's business.
Up to 67%,
yes.
according
so we need to, when we get this, some of us can now give informed commentary on them.
What exactly should be the way forward in a sustainable way? Not this back and forth, or it's cost reflective, it's not cost reflective. Recall, the Gencos are being owed by government alone about $2 billion. What is the way forward? What needs to be done? What are the critical steps that must be taken now if Nigeria's energy sector will be fixed?
Well, I think we got it wrong from the beginning, because you don't privatize what does not exist.
The beginning, of course, would be the privatization,
of the privatization
2013.
process. Yes, yes.
Right.
You don't, by that time, in fact, it was President Yar'Adua that said, wait a minute, for about 3 years, let us see whether we can, improve the sector before you privatize, so that you don't privatize darkness. You don't privatize what's not in existence. Now, where do you start? The power generation aspect. They have built about 4, 5, 6 power plants. Papalanto, Motosho, Girigu, and all that. When they build, they give it to private people. And the areas they are building these power plants, the sources of energy is not there. Political power plants. If I'm from a community, I'll build a gas plant in my community when there's no gas. So I will now construct a gas pipeline, probably from Bayelsa to Lagos or to Sokoto. Far from it. Because the diversity of energy sources in Nigeria are such that Yola, Meduguri, whatever you do solar, the heat there will assist you. Enugu, Benue, Kogi, the coal deposit there. One plant built by ESCO in South Africa generates about, that is run by coal, about 2,000 megawatts. Maybe Katsina and other areas, you look at wind turbines. Right. And maybe the Niger Delta area, the gas and whatever. And then you see all the Niger state areas where you have hydro plants. You have a mix. And then by the time we have sufficient power generated, you can now look at the transmission network, which is the vehicle. And they're not telling you about GE contract. What has that got? When they gave GE contract to construct lines that will convey about 8,000 megawatts. When we have 8,000 megawatts already, that contract is out of place.
You know, let's see if we can close on this. Listening to you, first you were so pained to see that some of the discourse are being run by non-experts. And I recall, we've really come a long way, Ajaero. I recall a decade ago we had this conversation where you fought that the legacy staff must not be eased out. So some of them are still there. Are you saying these experts, coupled with their expertise and your institute, the Power Institute, have not been able to give, knowledge, suggestions, as you've just highlighted, to these investors or takeovers to actually get us to where we are?
Well, I don't think they are even listening. The minister that is talking now, since he came on board, he has not met with the representatives of the workers to seek for advice. I think maybe yesterday was when he was sending text messages, because he equally knew that they have done the last things first. Now, you can't even increase tariff without stakeholders consultation. Tell NEC, that I said that it's in part of the act, that they should have consulted all stakeholders before the increase in tariff.
NEC was
they said they did.
They said they did.
Yeah.
The question was posed to them.
We too. We are critical stakeholders,
right.
NLC. And the unions, even the union in the power sector. Who did they consult? And where? Now, like I was saying, they are not taking the advice. And what they did was to ease off the legacy staff, for whatever reason, and brought those with laptop, and then for the account to balance. That is what happened. The legacy staff you are talking of, I'm not saying they are the best, but they held the system up to that moment. And come to look at it,
but some would say the legacy staff are part of the problem that led to.
And now that they are off,
Nigeria's
the problem
power
is
sector,
now that they are off,
got to where it is. Very, very quickly before we let you go, the issue of subsidy. The minister says in another 3 or so years, subsidy will be fully, removed from electricity. Nigerians spend about $22 billion annually on generators, individuals and organizations. If Nigerians can do this, don't you think subsidy really may not be sustainable?
Which one comes first?
Which one?
Power, availability, or subsidy? Because he's talking of whether he removes subsidy or not, and we're still on 4,000 megawatts. What is the impact? That's the question.
Yeah.
Now, you are still bringing us to where we were. Let Nigerians have power. All over the world, privatization is a post-industrialization concept. There must be availability before you now determine who manages it. There's no country in the world where the private sector developed their energy sector. No country. But the Nigerian state rushed to say they're handing over to the power sector. 10 years after, no private company has built a power plant to generate anything. It is still the same old, inefficient, according to them, NEPA, that they rushed to buy, and they're still managing it up to today.
It's a good place to leave it. Mr. Joe Ajaero, NLC President, thank you very much for joining us on Newsdive. We hope the next time you're here, we would have made some progress.